Good evening, this is Paul Newman. So tonight we're going to start, as always, with an initial relaxation lying in corpse pose. So we'll take the feet out, the heels out to mat width, and just scoop the fleshy parts of the glutes from underneath you, and then soften back on the mat, softening the spine into the mat, one vertebra at a time. Shoulder blades come down, shoulders soften, back of the head is on the mat. Just let go of any tension in the legs so the toes fall out to the side. Allow the small of the back to soften down into the mat, and then start breathing slowly and deeply in through the nostrils, and then taking the breath out again through the nostrils. So as you breathe in, notice the cool air as it flows in through the sinuses, down through the windpipe, filling the lungs and pressing the diaphragm down into the belly. As you breathe in, the belly's rising, softening the breath at the peak of your inhale, allowing the breath to flow out normally, naturally, under its own pressure. Noticing the warmer sensation in the sinuses as it flows out, and have the sensation of touching the breath as it leaves you. Inhaling and exhaling, long, slow, deep breaths. Looking for any areas of tension, drawing the breath down to where you feel the tension, dissolving the tension with the breath, and then allowing the breath and the tension to flow out of the body, dissolving outwardly into the atmosphere. Breathing in, enlivening and energizing. Exhale, letting go of tension. Inhaling and exhaling. Now count your breaths from 5 down to 0, a reverse count, so that when you reach 0 there's nowhere else to go except to keep counting zeros in your own time. Reach 0, bring your feet in together, the arms in beside you, and let's take a full body stretch, arms coming up overhead. So stretching out through the fingertips, pointing out through the toes, stretching, stretching, stretching. And then on the exhale, release the stretch, leave the arms where they are. We're going to stretch again, right side, right arm, right leg. And then take hold of the right wrist in the left hand, walk the heels over to the left side of the mat, and start drawing the shoulders, still both shoulders flat on the floor, over towards the left side, and breathing more into the left side of the ribs, taking a little bit of a stretch up the right side of the ribs, taking more of a stretch into the right side of the body, and if you like you can turn the head to look left, and then inhaling back to center. Stretch the left arm and left leg, keeping the right side passive for the while, and then take the left wrist in the right hand, walk the heels over towards the right side of the mat, and start drawing the left wrist over towards the right side of the mat, breathing into the left ribs. So inhaling up the side of the body, stretching out the side ribs, exhaling, soften, inhaling and exhaling, keeping both shoulders flat on the floor, and then inhaling, coming back to center, stretching out, one more full body stretch, inhaling, and on the exhale, bring the knees into the chest. Hug around the shins, and draw some small circles on the mat with your lower back, a few in each direction. And then take the feet to the floor, hip width, knees bend, knees pointing up, arms in beside you, palms facing down, palms flat, fingers spread, and walking the heel bones closer towards the sit bones. On the inhale we're going to push up, so taking first of all the sacrum, then the pelvis, then the lower back, the middle back and the upper back off the mat, one vertebra at a time, peeling away from the mat on the full length of the inhale. On the exhale, we're going to roll back down the way we came up, starting with the upper back, then the middle back, then the lower back, contacting the mat one vertebra at a time. Pelvis and sacrum comes down last, then the tailbone. Tilt the pelvis a little bit on an inhale, and then exhale, and then inhaling again to come up, inhaling and exhaling to come back down, rippling the spine on and off the mat in rolling bridge in time with your breath. Inhaling and exhaling. So you can push back a little bit further onto the shoulders if you like, inhaling to come up, and then come up beyond a straight line, knees through thighs, through hips and down the spine. So pushing back a little bit more into the shoulders. You can maybe walk the feet in a bit, maybe touch the heels. See if you can unclench the buttocks, pushing down with the full width of the palm, fingers spread. And then exhaling to come back down. This time as we come up, we're going to take the arms up overhead, pushing back onto the shoulders, and then rolling back down, keeping the arms where they are. And then when the pelvis is down, the arms can come down last. This time as we come up, leave the arms where they are, and then interlace the fingers and walk the shoulders together so you're on the tops of the arms. Reaching down with the fingertips towards the heels, pushing down through the full length of the arms to push back on the shoulders, and then separate the hands and coming down all the way. So hopefully we've got quite a nice stretch on the back there. So we're going to now do some forward folds to counter that. So if you want to take a block, or if you have one, elevate the hips, come into Sukhasana, easy pose, cross leg position, spine upright. Start with a few hip circles before we come into our forward rotations. So you can take the hands to the floor either side, and keeping the spine nice and straight, a few hip circles in each direction. Inhaling and exhaling. And then change the cross of the legs, do that again. Inhaling and exhaling. One circle to inhale, one circle to exhale. And then change direction, inhaling and exhaling. Good, so when you're done, we're going to come into a seated forward fold. So starting with the spine upright, taking the hands at the fronts of the knees. On the exhale, we're going to just hinge at the hips and come forward with a flat back, just the short way. On the inhale, we're going to pull against the knees, bring the gaze forward, out and up, bring the chest forward and up, and then exhale, hinging at the hips with a flat back. Inhale and exhale. If you want to take the hands to the floor to support you, then please do. So keep working with the breath. You can make small side-to-side movements in the hips to help ease out the hips for the forward fold. Working with the breath, inhaling and exhaling to come forward with a flat back. Inhaling and exhaling. Then take the hands to the floor in front of you, make a pillow with the hands and round down, taking the head towards the hands. Now as you breathe into the back of the ribs, the back of the rib rises, exhaling, softening forward a little bit more. Inhaling and exhaling. And then pressing into the hands, straighten the arms, coming upright. Take the hands behind you, 6 to 8 inches. Lean back so that your wrists are directly underneath the shoulders, and then pushing the belly, the small of the back through to the belly button. Chest up, gaze up. Please avoid throwing the head all the way back, keep space at the back of the neck. So now the knees are coming out to the side. If you want to, you can bring the feet into the Baddha Konasana position, or the bound angle pose position, so that you're rolling forward in the front hips as well. And stretching out the inner thighs a little bit. Or just keep the legs crossed, your choice. Inhaling, pushing forward, out and up, exhaling, just taking the stretch out of the position. And then coming up to a seated position. We're going to come into some seated rotations, starting with the right hand on the left knee, left hand behind. See if you can get the inside of the wrist touching against the sacrum bone, so that you have the full length of the forearm in contact with your spine. Inhale to sit up tall, exhale, twisting down and around and looking over the left shoulder. Inhale to push up taller, exhale to twist further. Inhale, push up taller, exhale, twist further. Keep working into the twist with the breath. Inhale to push up, exhale to twist. And then come all the way back around the other way, so taking the left hand to the right knee, right hand behind, and again see if you can get the inside of the wrist against the sacrum bone. Inhale first to push up tall, exhale, then twist, coming down and around and looking over the right shoulder. Keep working with the breath, pushing up on the inhale, twisting on the exhale, and then inhale, come back to center, and we'll do a few more little hip circles, maybe figures of 8 this time. Change the cross of the legs and do that again. So it's kind of like you're walking on your sit bones, doing this figure 8. And then come up to a seated cross-legged position. So from here we're going to come into a series of belly twists. So we're going to take the block out from underneath us and come back to the position with the knees pointing up. And then you can take the arms out to shoulder height if you have space. If you don't have space, have the hands on the shoulders and the elbows out to shoulder height. And then on the exhale, we're going to take the knees across to the right. Feet stacked and pressing with the left knee into the right knee. If you want, you can turn the head, look left. You should be feeling a bit of a stretch just inside the top of the iliac crest there. And then inhale. Coming upright, exhale, over to the left with the knees, head can turn to look right. Again, if you have the arm extended, you can be pushing down in the palm, or if the arm's folded, you can be pushing through the backs of the elbows. Pushing with the right knee into the left knee to get a bit of more of a dynamic stretch. And then inhaling, coming up to center. Bring the knees into the chest again, taking the head and shoulders off the mat. Elbows pointing down towards the heels, crossing the ankles, and again rock up to seated. So we're going to do a slightly more intensive rotational twist now. So we're going to take the left heel to the front of the block on the right side, and then sitting up tall, bring the right heel to the middle of the left shin, and holding against that top of the right shin to bring you nice and upright. So now we're going to lean forward, bringing the chest against the front thigh and hold around the knee and look back over the right shoulder. Okay, so you should have felt a bit more of a twist in the hip there. So we're going to intensify that if you want to, or you can just do that same thing again by hopping the right foot over the front left thigh. Now if the right sit bone is coming up off the mat or off the block, then you need to extend the left leg. If both sit bones are on the block or the mat, then you can keep the leg folded. So again, we're going to lean forward, taking the chest towards the front thigh, hold around with the elbow, and then sit back, keeping the thigh locked into the chest, into the ribs. And then inhale, sit up and turn and look over the right shoulder. Should be getting a bit of a stretch on the outside of the right glute here. You can have the hand against the front of the right thigh to push yourself into the twist a little bit. Don't overdo that, but just to give yourself a bit of an assist. So at the same time that you're pushing, please avoid collapsing into the twist like this. It's important to keep rolling forward in the hip here to keep the small of the back pushing through to the belly button, so that you're not collapsing. And then inhale, coming back to center. We'll do a little counter twist. So we'll take the right elbow to the inside of the right knee, hold the right ankle in the right hand on the inside, take the left hand behind, inhale, sit up tall, exhale, twist. Inhale, exhale. So if we can keep the head nice and upright and the spine pretty much upright, see if we can avoid of leaning backwards if we're doing it, or leaning forwards or out to the side. So inhaling and exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. You can have a little bit of a pull on the ankle as well with the grip in the hand. And then coming back to centre, and we'll change sides. So changing the cross of the legs, taking the right heel to the left side of the block at the front, and bringing the heel to the middle, the left heel to the middle of the right shin, sitting up tall, pulling against the upper shin, and then leaning forward and taking the elbow around. So we're just going to use this to pull ourselves into a twist. Inhaling, coming up tall, exhale, twisting. Inhaling and exhaling. And then coming back round to centre. If you're ready, you can hop the foot across the thigh. Extend the leg if the left sit bone's coming up. If the left sit bone is not on the floor or on the block, then extend the right leg like I showed you earlier. So again, sitting up nice and tall, leaning forward, taking the rib cage to the knee, and then hugging that knee into the chest, and coming back, sitting up tall. Again, you can push against this thigh to get the rotation, but please avoid collapsing back. So keeping the back pushing forward. So you don't push too hard here, otherwise the tendency will be to make the space by rounding into the lower back. So inhale to sit up tall, exhale to twist. Inhale tall, exhale twist. Looking over the left shoulder. Spine upright, head upright. Nice stretch on the outside of the left glute. And then inhale, coming back to centre. Left hand to the inside of the left ankle, right hand behind. Elbow to knee. Twist. And then inhale, coming back to centre and into a Sukhasana easy pose once more. Let's do a few more hip circles. And then we're going to come up to standing for a Vinyasa sequence. And I'd like to see if you can do this without using your hand, if you have space at home. So we're going to try rocking backwards and forwards along the length of the spine, holding behind the thighs to build up a bit of momentum, massaging the spine. So each time you come forward, you kind of balance on the sit bones a little bit before then rocking back. Okay, so on the last one forward, what I'd like you to do is from this, hold the front of the shins and pull yourself into a tighter little ball as you possibly can. So then as you roll forward, this will increase the acceleration and you should be able to come up onto the soles of the feet. Let's give that a try. So rocking backwards, nice tight, pull yourself into the soles of the feet, and from here you can stand up to Tadasana mountain pose, heel and toe your feet to the correct position. Okay, so today the sequence I'm going to show you is the Warrior sequence. So yesterday, if you came to the online class yesterday, we did a Surya Namaskar sequence, which is Surya Namaskar B, which includes some of the warrior postures. So most of the warrior postures I'm going to show you today we already did yesterday, with one exception. There'll be one new posture. So standing at the front of your mat in Tadasana mountain pose. So if you remember, just to recap Tadasana, we can have the feet parallel so that the middle toes are in line with the bony parts of the hips at the front. That's the anterior edge of the iliac crest. And then slight engagement in the belly muscles so that the hips aren't being drawn too far forward, so they're stacked above the knees, above the ankles, and the head is upright. And then kind of a resting posture, so you're resting lightly in this position. Just using whatever tension you need to hold you upright. So normally when we stand upright it's unconscious, automatic, we do it all the time. Been doing it since you're about this big. So paying attention to this. Noticing your body alignment. So coming into the warrior sequence, we're going to start with the warrior one, bring the hands together in prayer at the belly, and then two ways of doing this. You can either step back first with the left foot and then bring the arms up to a standing back bend, and that's keeping the hips parallel to the short edge of the mat. So this is a Warrior One posture. Or if you prefer, you can step back at the same time as you take the back bend. So coming through a single leg standing back bend, slightly more tricky to balance. And then there's your Warrior One. Okay, so what we're going to do different from yesterday is come into a Revolved Warrior One. So the hands come to prayer at the heart center. We're going to turn the torso out towards the front knee, just the torso, keeping everything else in the same position, and then lean forward with the torso to extend the line of the back leg. So the spine and the back leg should be pretty much in one line, and then we're going to push the heels of the palms down towards the hip and get a rotation looking up past the shoulder. So now I'd like you to straighten the arms, keeping the hands in prayer, sweep them around forward and up, separate the palms as you come to shoulder height. At the same time, we're drawing the shoulders back above the hips, and then from here we're going to come into Warrior Two. So as the arm comes back and up, we turn the hips out so that the hips are over line with the heels, and then turn just the head towards me, towards the screen, and then looking over the middle finger. So from here we're going to come into a Sun Warrior, and then a reverse Sun Warrior. So turn just the head, look down towards the back heel, and then if you want to increase the stretch, you can turn the palm up towards the ceiling and push towards the top back corner of the room as you lean further into the stretch. So the other posture we didn't do yesterday is Lord Siva the Dancer. So from a reverse Sun Warrior, we're rotating the palm, bringing it down level with the shoulder and tucking the elbow into the front ribs. Bring the back palm up, level with the back shoulder, and then lunging forward into the front leg. So now we're going to step the back knee to the front elbow, keeping the torso in this sideways alignment, and just the head turns to look over the front palm. So taking the weight into the front foot, pushing off the back toes, bring the elbow, the knee to elbow, and softening into that leg. So keeping the torso out to the side pretty much, turning just the head. Lord Siva the Dancer, and then coming back up to a standing position, releasing the palms, and we're back to Tadasana mountain pose. So we'll do that again on the opposite side. So either stepping back with the right foot and then taking the back bend, or single leg standing back bend and then take the full Warrior One posture. From here we're going to straighten the torso, turn the face out over the left knee, and then lean the spine forward, so we're extending the line of the leg, the back leg. Elbow to the outside of the knee, pushing the heels of the palms together, down towards the hip, the left hip, and then turning and rotating the head, looking back over the left shoulder. And then we point the palms away, straighten the arms, and then as we bring the arms up to shoulder height, bring the shoulders back over the hips, and now we're going into Warrior Two on the opposite side. Inhaling, coming into Sun Warrior, dropping the right hand to the back of the right knee, left hand comes up above the face, and then Shadow Warrior, turning the head and making the stretch into a dynamic stretch, and then coming to Lord Siva the Dancer. So rotating the palm, elbow to front ribs, palms level with the shoulder, lunging into the front knee, and then stepping up and back to Tadasana. So one of the things I like about this sequence is you can do it when you're wearing, you don't touch the ground with your hands at any time. So you can do this, it's a standing sequence. You can do it pretty much anywhere. You can do it on wet grass or mud. You can do it wearing shoes. You could do it in the office on commercial carpet. You know, supposing you've got stuck somewhere in an office and there's no one around and you want to do some yoga practice, you don't need any special clothes or a mat or anything. You can just do this practice from standing, wearing shoes. So we're going to do this again, and I'm now going to show you the more advanced version. So we're going to include a Warrior 3 and a Sun Warrior. So if you have blocks, please bring them to the front of your mat for the Sun Warrior, for the Ardha of the half moon. So this is where your hands will be in Ardha. You don't have to use the blocks, but it's a helpful prop if you need them. So we're going to take a Warrior 1, a Warrior 2, we're going to skip the Revolved Warrior 1, and then coming into a Warrior 3. So from a Warrior 2 we keep that left hand travelling in a big arc. So we've come to here, out to the side, and that arm's going to come around in a big circle and come back level with the right arm as we come into Warrior 3. And then reach down underneath you like you're hugging a big ball, flex the back foot and start pointing it out to the side. You can hold that block here on the left side of the mat if you have one. So rotating first the left foot out to the left of your mat, and that's cueing a rotation of the leg, which is then cueing a stacking of the hip on the other hip, and then that cues a rotation of the torso out to the side, and then finally you can come into the full half moon posture. Then from here we're going to come into the Sun Warrior. So point the foot to where it's coming and scoop the hand up above the face and push. And then if we were doing this in another sequence, we could come out of it into a equestrian pose and then through the ending of a sun salutation. Or you can do what we did before and come out through Lord Shiva the Dancer. So we'll do that again on the opposite side. So standing at the front of your mat in Tadasana mountain pose. Inhale. So you can take the foot back first before you come into the standing back bend if you want to. Like I say, that's a slightly more tricky balance to do. So leaning all the way back into a Warrior 1. And then turning the hips out to the side, spreading the arms, turning just the head. Warrior 2, keeping the arm travelling back down and underneath. So the hips are coming now from parallel with the long edge of the mat more or less to back to parallel with the short edge of the mat. So the shoulder and the hip are coming forward at the same time, reaching forward, and we're kind of diving into this Warrior 3. And then hugging a ball and cueing the rotation of the body by turning that right foot out strongly to the right, holding the block and coming into the side of the rotation. Pointing the toe to where it's coming to, so let's do that again. As we didn't do that very elegantly, so I'll come out of that again. So from here, point the toe to where it's going to come. That disturbs the balance enough to bring you out of the posture, ground the toes and the heel, and come into your Sun Warrior. So again, we're scooping up the back of the hand, but keeping the shoulder relaxed in the Sun Warrior. Pushing out through the back of the knee, stretching the inner thigh a little bit, hand above the face, and then turn just the head, looking towards the back heel, turning the palm, dynamic stretch, Shadow Warrior. And then coming all the way up to standing through Lord Shiva the Dancer. So when you come into Lord Shiva, bend strongly into that front knee, have the shoulders out to the side, just the head is turning to look forward, and flexing the raised foot, and then coming back to Tadasana mountain pose. Okay, doing quite well for times. It's 7:30, so let's go into now a series of asanas. So we'll hold these postures for a minute or so. Yesterday we did the tree, So today I think we'll do the knee to side pose. So starting in standing balance, take the foot out to the side, lift the knee, bring the hip back to the front and take the hand to the front thigh, the inner front thigh, and then lift the knee and hold the knee from the inside. So flexing the foot, and you can turn the head to look away from the raised knee, raise the arm at the shoulder, thumb up. So you're looking at the thumb, and hold the balance, meditating on the posture. If you want to, you can reach down, take 2 fingers and thumb around the big toe and work on straightening the leg. Or just keep holding on to the bent knee. Foot flexed. And then bring the knee to the front, hug it up towards the chest, nice and upright, then release the foot and we're back to the standing balance. Okay, so we're going to do that again on the opposite side. So taking a Tadasana mountain pose stance, then shifting the weight to the right, pivoting on the left heel, grounding the left toes, and then taking the left heel off the floor. So then bring the hips back to the front. At the same time you can take the hand to the inner thigh and then lift the knee. So I'm kind of out of space here with the side of the tent, so I'm going to turn around to the side and lifting the arm out level with the right shoulder, raising the thumb and turning the gaze to the right towards the raised thumb. If you want to, you can work on taking hold of that big toe and straightening the leg. Lifting up out of the hips, pushing down through the sole of the foot. Before then bringing the knee back to the front, bring the knee up to the chest, and then release the knee and come back to your Tadasana mountain pose. Okay, then from here we're going to do a revolved downward facing dog. So come onto the mat first and we'll just do a quick warm-up exercise for down dog. We'll do the cat-cow dog for a short, a few cat-cow dogs, and then we'll come into the revolved downward facing dog. So from an all-fours position, inhaling, dropping the belly towards the floor, raise the gaze, push up into the shoulders, inhale, cow pose, exhale, flatten the back, look back down between the hands, and then look back towards the knees, lowering the head, and then start ripping the spine up towards the ceiling, tailbone, lower back, middle back, upper back, pushing the back heart space away from the palms. Nice stretch on the exhale. This is the cat pose. Coming back to an all fours, lifting the knees, pushing the sit bones back towards the heels, and then quarter dog, half dog, downward facing dog, walk out the heels. And then we're going to come into a high cat, so onto the toes, ripple the spine up towards the ceiling, and then flatten out the back and bring the knees down back into an all fours position. We'll do that one more time and then we'll come into the revolved down dog. So inhaling, cow pose, exhaling through the cat pose. Flatten the back, lift the knees, push back towards the heels, quarter dog, half dog, down dog, onto the tiptoes, ripple the spine up towards the ceiling, tailbone, lower back, lower back, upper back, flatten out the back, take the heels down, plank, and then bring the knees forward on the toes, and we're back into an all fours position. So from here, we'll go into the revolved down dog. So normally when we do a three-legged dog from down dog, what we're aiming to do is keep the hips nice and parallel and getting the toe as far as we can from the wrist without the knee bending or without the hip coming up like this. So we're trying to keep the hips parallel to the ground in our three-legged dog. When we come into the revolved three-legged dog, we're going to take the knee bent, and then take the knee out to the side, so we are taking the hip up. So the hip comes nice, the leg comes nice and high, pointing out the toes, looking underneath the armpit, and then you can come onto the fingertips if you want to, and more of a revolved position. If you're comfortable with this, you can pivot on the toes, come onto the side foot, and see if you can reach a balance where the front hand will come off the floor. If so, you can bring the toes down, tap the toe on the floor, then come into a full revolved down dog, and then coming out the way you came in, and then back into your down dog. So bring the knees down, sit back on the heels for a moment, and shake out the wrists if you need to. Okay, so we'll try that again on the opposite side. So tucking the toes, coming up to your down dog. And then inhaling. Bend the knee, and then the knee comes high. Pivot on the ball of the foot, look underneath the left armpit, come to the fingertips of the left hand, pushing down more strongly into the heel of the right palm. If you're okay with this, you can pivot on the ball of the right foot and start coming into a side plank, and then tap the foot, tap the toes on the floor behind you, and then come all the way back up and over and out. So that's how to revolve the down dog. So that's Ekapada Adho Mukha Svanasana Paravita, which means single foot down facing dog revolved. Okay, so then from here, let's come into a, what should we do? Let's do the boat pose. So sitting on the sit bones, holding behind the thighs, you can have the knees together and the toe joints together, the ankles connected, and then leaning back with a flat back. So you're pulling the shoulders down away from the ears, and then back on the sit bones, take the feet off the floor and bring the shins parallel with the floor. So if you can do it without the back rounding in like this, then you can work on letting go with the hands and work on straightening the legs. So then from here, let's do some belly crunches. So we're going to exhale for 5, inhale for 5, exhale for 4, inhale for 4, exhale for 3, inhale for 3, exhale for 2, exhale for 2, inhale for 1, exhale for 1, and rock backwards and forwards on the length of the spine, cross at the ankles, and come up to a seated posture. A few more little hip circles here, just to ease out if you've found you've opened up the side of the hip in the revolved down dog. Change the force of the legs and do it again so that you get an even stretch on both hips. Okay, we're going to come into a half Hanuman pose. So if you have a block, you wish to place the block underneath the left sit bone. Take the left leg out in front of you and sit back also on the right hip. So ideally we want blocks which are thick enough, maybe 2 blocks under the same sit bone, to get the sit bone the same height as the heel. So we're in the half Hanuman pose, and spine upright, pushing down through the back of the knee, pushing down through the back of the heel, and sitting up tall. Gaze forward, out and up on the inhale, exhale, hinging at the hips, folding forward with a flat back. So you'll feel quite a stretch up the back of the hamstring on the left side. Inhaling and exhaling. So keep working in with the breath, slowly softening forward with a flat back, inhaling and exhaling. So Hanuman is the monkey god, and this is called the half Hanuman pose. So the full Hanuman pose is a straddle split. So you probably find this pulling quite a lot around the top of the hips. So just work to where you come to comfortably. Work with the breath for 5 breaths. So working around your edge, inhaling and exhaling, just softening the edge where it's tight in both directions. And then once you've done at least 5 breaths, you can round down, taking the nose towards the knee. If the hamstring does lengthen, take up the slack by pushing the heel out further from you. You can take a few more breaths in the half Hanuman pose. And then softening and rounding forward, taking the nose or the head down towards the knee. And they should definitely be getting a nice strong stretch at the sciatic nerve. Inhale, coming up to seated. Take the hands behind 6 to 8 inches, and you can take the hips up a little bit if you want to. And then come up to a seated position or change sides. So take the block, unbend the right knee, take the blocks over to the right side and sit on the left heel. Inhaling to sit up tall, exhaling forward fold. So if you haven't got blocks, then a stack of books will do. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling, inhaling and exhaling. Make whatever small movements you need to ease out the ligaments. It's quite an intense stretch, so don't overdo it, don't rush into it. Listen to what your body's telling you about where the ligaments are tight, where the muscles are tight. And just gently work those out before going any further. Inhaling and exhaling, softening with a flat back. Inhaling and exhaling. So keep working to where it's comfortable or slightly uncomfortable, and then work with the breath for at least 5 breaths around that position. Inhaling, pulling the mat towards you, gaze forward, out and up. Exhaling, hinging at the hips, softening forward with a flat back. Inhaling, exhaling. So working around the comfortable maximum extent of your stretch, working the edge. And then when you're ready, you can exhale, rounding forward, taking the head towards the knee. Breathe into the back of the ribs as you breathe in. Exhale, soften forward, allowing the head to come down further towards the knee. And when you're ready, sitting up nice and tall, taking the hands behind 6 to 8 inches. So here, if you're pressing that left knee into the mat, you should also be getting a stretch on the front of the left thigh. And again, you push the hips off the block a little bit to stretch out that front thigh a little bit more. And then inhale, coming up to seated and taking both feet behind, move the blocks out of the way and sit on both heels. So from here we're going to come into the camel pose. So we're going to come up onto the knees, tuck the toes and take the hands or the fingertips to the heels. So we're going to try and keep the hips above the knees and bring a curve into the back. Again, please avoid throwing the head all the way back like this. So keep some space at the back of the neck so the base of your skull isn't cutting off the blood supply to your hindbrain. So keeping a nice open posture through the back. And then when you're ready, you can release the toes and take hold of the heels. Here you can take the hands to the floor, walk back onto the elbows. I'm getting cramp in my feet, so I need to just ease it out before I demonstrate. Okay, let's try again. So from elbows to the floor, bring the sit bones down between the heels, and then walking the elbows forward to bring the shoulders down. And then if you want to, you can take the arms up overhead and relax into the posture. Pressing down with the knees into the floor, easing the shoulder blades into the floor. You can work on lifting one front thigh and then the other front thigh to really stretch out the muscles on the fronts of the thighs. Long, slow, deep breaths, stretching into the posture. And then when you're ready, taking the hands to the ankles, coming back up onto the elbows and pushing yourself upright. So from here we're going to go into the a pranayama technique, which is called Sahasrara of the Roaring Lion. So we're going to take the palms flat to the floor between the knees and push down into the palms with the fingertips pointing back towards the sit bones. So this is an exercise in applying Jalandhara Bandha, which, if you don't know it, I'll demonstrate. So what we're doing is creating a restriction in the throat so that when we force the breath out, it's being forced out through a narrow restriction. So the way we apply Jalandhara Bandha, which means throat lock, taking a breath in with the spine upright, bowing the head forward, and then drawing the head with this forward elevation back above the shoulders so that you're constricting the throat in the area of the vocal cord. So you will have heard the note of my voice change when I did that. So then also what we'll do is press the tip of the tongue into the back of the top teeth, and then with that breath we took, we're going to force it out through this narrow restriction, so you get this kind of a roaring sound, a roaring, rushing, hissing sound as you force the air out. Okay, so this is why it's called Sahasrara of the Roaring Lion. So the idea of this breath technique is that we're stimulating the sympathetic nervous system. So usually when we exhale, this is a calming and relaxing part of the breath. Normally when you exhale, letting go, you're firing up the parasympathetic part of the nervous system. This is the rest and digest side. When you fire the sympathetic side of the nervous system, it's like getting ready for action. So sometimes that's called fight or flight, but then that's not what we're using for. You can also use it for energizing, for enthusiasm, for motivation, for courage, for sincerity, for all the good heart qualities. So what we do is, as we push the chest forward, between forward and up on the exhale, we're looking for any positive emotions in the heart center, the heart area, and using that rushing flow of breath as a way of igniting, amplifying those feelings. So you're using it as a way to energize yourself. So what I said about exhales is true for every kind of exhale except for when you're yawning. So this is actually kind of simulating a yawning breath, which is, as you know, a way of getting yourself going in the morning, or waking yourself up, getting yourself more ready for action. So we'll practice this by coming to the Sahasrara pose, which is sitting on the heels, palms flat. You can release the toes. On the inhale, apply Jalandhara Bandha, and then inhale, and then through Jalandhara Bandha, through the heart center as you exhale. For 5, inhale. Exhale for 4. Inhale. Exhale for 3. Exhale for 2. Inhale. Roaring exhale for 1. and then sit back on your heels, spine upright. Just see if you can feel a sensation at the base of your ears like you're about to start yawning. So if you can feel that, it means you are doing this properly. Okay, I'm going to spend a little bit of time discussing one of the stages in the final ritual before our final relaxation, and then we'll do the closing ritual as we come out of the final relaxation. So, if you've done my classes before, if you've done these online, you know we finish with this ritual where we start with the hands in prayer at the floor level, we bring the arms all the way up, overhead, spread them out high and wide, bring them back together, and then back to the heart center. So the motion, the action I want to talk about is this second stage, the first action, where we're taking the palms all the way up through the center of the body and then overhead. So this is representing evolution of human consciousness from its most basic to its most advanced. So here, this is Muradhara Chakra, the chakra at the below the sacrum bone, and this represents consciousness at the unicellular level. So it's the type of consciousness that every single individual cell in your body has, not the kind of unified human consciousness that you are experiencing your life through. This is like all the parts which go to make up that sum total, trillions and trillions of them. So, and they're not really separate parts either, they're not really separate, but maybe that's for another time. So we start in this posture with the Muradhara Chakra, and then we bring the hands up through each stage, through each chakra. So from here we get to Sahasrara Chakra. Sahasrara Chakra represents the large intestine going around the body cavity, and the focus can be anywhere on that outer circle at any time. But usually it's shown as here, what's called the dantian, or the centre of gravity of the body, just about a couple of inches below the belly button. So that's where it's usually shown. But in fact, the second and third chakra, the Swadhisthana and the Nabi Chakra, operate like kind of like a solar system. So it's like the sun in the Nabi Chakra and the moon going around the outside. So the moon represents this kind of this moon energy represents this kind of left-sided reflective energy. So the moon doesn't have any light of its own, it's only reflecting the light of the sun. So this is kind of like consciousness before it's really aware that it's consciousness, kind of like dream state consciousness, subconsciousness if you like. And then from here we get to the Nabi Chakra, which represents the belly and the fire in the belly and the desire to look after yourself, to satisfy your physical needs. So you get to this stage, and this is the chakra that you make for yourself. So this is often shown as a broken line crossing the Nabi Chakra, the Manipura Chakra. So this means that you have to get yourself enough food and shelter and all the physical needs of your life before you can then move on to take your attention to higher things. So some people kind of get stuck in this place, you know, and they never progress. So they're kind of like always chasing after money or wealth or resources or fame or whatever it is that they want, and they end up being the richest corpse in the graveyard, but never having really gone beyond this material satisfaction stage. So then after Nabi Chakra, the hands come to Anahata Chakra or Heart Chakra. So this point, this is where mammals started caring for their young. So it's kind of like this is the mother and the father aspects of the heart. It's also things like confidence and sincerity, things we talked about when we were doing the Simhasana of the Roaring Lion. But this sort of, rather than just being selfish and looking after your own needs, this is about now starting to look at this dim recognition that there's more than just you. We're more than that. So you can start caring for the people in your immediate circle, but then you can also start caring for people in a wider circle, in a wider context. So this is also love and compassion, quite obviously, and joy. So then from the Nabi Chakra we come up to the Vishuddhi Chakra, which is the centre of communication. So this chakra, is said it developed when mammals first held their heads up on their shoulders. So kind of like, at one stage there were these mammals who were kind of like meerkats, where, you know, perhaps environmental change and they stopped living in the forest and they had to live in long grass savanna, and then to find out if there was any predators around they had to stand on their hind legs and hold their heads up above the shoulders. So this is where the curve in the neck developed, and this ability to communicate through sound also developed. So this opened up our ability to vocalize. So this is all about our communication. So when we did Warrior II, this represents the Vishuddhi energy spreading out down the length of the arm and all the way out into the universe. So it's a very powerful type of energy. So when you use speech, you also have to guide your speech. So when we do Warrior II, it's not just a warrior posture, it's also a guiding posture. So the idea is that speech is a very important gift, and you have to be aware of it and know how to look after it and how to guard it, how to use it wisely. Then from the Vishuddhi chakra, we come up to Agnea Chakra. So this is just above the forehead, the position of the third eye, and this is where the corpus callosum is behind the skull. So this is where the two hemispheres of the brain, all the nerves cross here. So you've got a huge amount of mental energy going on there. So there's so much going on that sometimes it's just shown as the two aspects: the right brain, left brain, right side, left side, artistic, scientific, or all those pairs of opposites. But in fact, we now know that thoughts and emotions are distributed quite widely across the brain. It's only a tendency to be on one side or the other. And then finally, once we've gone through Agnea Chakra, this is also one way of calming the chakra is through forgiveness. So self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others. So what makes this chakra really keep on rattling around is holding on to grudges. So this is also quite apposite at the time of Easter, that we're talking about releasing and allowing the energy to flow through this chakra. And then you come to Sahasrara Chakra, which is represented by the Buddha in the 1,000-petal lotus, and this is where you have self-actualization, and you appreciate that every single stage of this movement isn't really separate. All the consciousness at a unicellular level isn't really separate from the total consciousness. Before you were even consciousness was there. And then from here, what we can experience through consciousness. So this is the truth, this is subjective feeling, and then acknowledging that those 4 stages, 1, 2, 3 and 4, are all really one. They're like 4 colours in a rainbow, and if you took away one colour, the other 3 colours would still embody the missing colour. So it can't really be missing ever. It's like if you had a prism of light and you split it into 7 colours, but then each colour, if you split that, it would also split into another 7 colours. That doesn't happen in physics, but that's the idea, that each one of the strands embodies all the other 3 and itself, and isn't separate. So then we have this coming together acknowledgement of Namaste, which kind of means that everything that's in you is in me. So this is all the energies unite. So another way of looking at this this action is through the mantra Ramadasa Sase Suhum. So this is kind of like the initial energy, the sun, the moon and the stars, and then the energy flowing through me, the energy flowing through the universe, the energies unite, and that's what I am. So this is kind of like, and that's what I am, all the energies, that's what I am. That's kind of what Namaste means. It also means you're that energy too. You're the Buddha also. So then we're going to come into a final relaxation. I know I've talked a lot, and hope it was interesting. We're coming to a final relaxation in corpse pose, relaxing on the mat. Allowing the shoulders to spread, allowing the hips to soften, and the toes to fall out to the sides. Releasing all the tension in the legs. Start paying attention to all the places you can sense your body in contact with the mat. So bring your attention to the back of the heels, the backs of the calves, the backs of the thighs at the top and the sit bones. Perhaps the small of the back is just off the mat, but then the back of the rib cage is touching the mat, the shoulder blades are on the mat, the shoulders are on the mat, the backs of the arms and the backs of the hands, the tips of the fingers, the fingernails, and then the back of the head. Just allow gravity to hold you in that position, not using any tension of your own. And acknowledging yourself for performing your practice, and feel all that energy moving in your body. Feel it flowing right down into the deepest places, into the bones, the sinews, the ligaments, the connective tissue, into the muscles, into the skin. And feel your body strengthening, enlivening and renewing itself. So a few more long, slow, deep breaths in through the nostrils and out through the nostrils. And then in your own time, take a full body stretch and then bring the knees into the chest, hug around the shins. Draw a few small circles on the mat with your lower back, a few in each direction, and then roll off onto the right hand side into a fetal position, eyes closed or soft. Place the left hand on the floor in front of your face. Slowly, carefully and mindfully push yourself up to a comfortable seated cross-leg position. Spine upright, head upright, shoulders relaxed, face relaxed. Eyes closed or soft, backs of the hands resting on the knees. And if you want to, you can connect the forefinger and thumb in Gyan Mudra meditation posture. Just listening to the sound of your breath as it flows in and as it flows out. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. And then we're going to bring the hands in prayer at the floor before completion. Inhaling, becoming one like this. Spreading the arms out high and wide, knowing the truth like this. Inhaling, acknowledging the experiences like this. Sealing the palms together, bring them down to your heart center, bow the head to the fingertips. Namaste. And then you can release the hands to the backs of the knees and sit upright once more and make whatever small movements you need to ease out the body after your practice. Twisting left and twisting right, maybe making a few more hip circles. It's the end of the class. Thank you for attending. I'll be coming back again on next Monday evening at 7:30, hopefully again on next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and I hope to do a live stream to my Facebook page, Newman Yoga. Please let me know if you attended the class by leaving a comment or a like, so I know who is here. And hope to see you again next week. Hope you had a lovely Easter. Namaste.